Hello everyone, happy Saturday.
Welcome on our last session in the old year of the snake, because the coming Wednesday we'll be celebrating new Tibetan year of the fiery horse. So welcome Lama Glenn on our second session in Guhyasamaja series.
Good morning, Lama.
Da 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 go ya go ya go ya.
Already energy of fiery horse, I feel.
Secret go ya secret Samaja
Yes.
gathering, a secret gathering. Let's see what all these secrets are about.
We hope to hear it from you, Lama.
Sangye chonan soki shonam la janyo bada dani kyapsu chi dargi chinso chepa sonam gi drola pinto sangye trupar so. Sangye chonan soki shonam la janyo bada dani kyapsu chi dargi chinso chepa sonam gi drola pinto sangye trupar so. Sangye chonan soki shonam la janyo bada dani kyapsu chi dargi chinso chepa sonam gi drola pinto sangye trupar so. Sanjan Tamja Dewa Tandewe Gyudan Demba Gurchi. Sanjan Tamche Dungan Dugangi Gyudan Dewa Gurchi. Sanjan Tamche Dungan Mewa Dewa Mitra Gurchi. Sanjan Tamche Neran Chadan Yanane Betonyan Yama Somo wa Shoto Sabadam Somo Shoto Hongtong Pan Yitu Kyor.
She Pergi Drokshik Metok Dram, Rilha Blinkshin Yede Genpadi, Sangye Shingdo Make de Poai, Drokonam Dak Shingla Chilpara Sho. Om Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamne Yetaya.
Ha ha! What a nice mandala offering. First off, happy, Valentine's Day to all and everyone around this little planet. And I think it originally began as an ancient Celtic celebration. In Europe, the birds would start chirping, like Mr. Bird would chirp to Mrs. Bird, I like you a lot. And she would she would chirp back, I kind of like you, I think. And he would say, well, I'm very sure. And she would say, oh, maybe. And one thing would lead to another. And before long, you had baby birds. And then the Catholics took it over by putting it together with one of the priests who was put to death for breaking some emperor's orders by marrying people who were not allowed to marry. What a guy. And so it was given a kind of a martyrdom thing. And I think for men, that's kind of interesting. This love is a little bit like a martyrdom. Just kidding. But also, as Jonas and Gosha were saying, the 18th is Losar, the beginning of the new year. So a very auspicious week. So we're in the last Saturday of the old year. And next week will be the first Saturday of the new year. Last week in our first session, we saw that to begin the practice properly, and getting off on the right foot is important. Beginning properly is important. But to begin the sadhana properly, we should absorb the inspiring, transformational powers, blessings of the lineage gurus. And so, there, as I suggested last week, the Tibetan lineage is kind of long because they mention one person from every generation. And it's good to cut it down to 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 of your favorites. Buddha, Vajradhara, Nagarjuna, a few like that, Marpa Lotsawa. I like to throw in Atisha because he's the one who really polished the translation and really promoted Guhyasamaja practice as a secret practice. He's not so well known because he did not allow the oral transmission teaching to be written down. He said oral teaching should remain oral teaching if it comes from me. And so nobody was allowed to write down his oral teaching on Guhyasamaja. According to the oral tradition, he gave those initiations and teachings in Semye, the first monastic university built in Tibet. Not the first monastery, but the first monastic university built in Tibet. And there they were sealed in secrecy. But of course, they still exist in the oral transmission. But because it's only in the oral transmission, they cannot become a subject of commentarial literature. And coming down through the centuries, then certainly Marpa Lotsawa and his lineage of transmission, and coming down to Shalu, Bhutan Rinchen Trungpa, coming to Lama Tsongkhapa. After Lama Tsongkhapa was is often credited as being the person who saved the Guhyasamaja Tantra in Tibet. Because in his time, Guhyasamaja had become a kind of an obscure and poorly maintained practice, you could say. Other schools had gone for other kind of main yidam practices. Kargyupa is very much for Chakra Samvara and Vajrayoginis, and Sakya is for He Vajra, even though their Guhyasamaja lineage was strong, but was never really emphasized. And Ralug went in very much for the Yamataka practice rather than his work on the Guhyasamaja or his transmissions of Guhyasamaja, and so on. So one of Tsongkhapa's great contributions, we could say, is his effort in traveling through about 40 or 50 different training centers and gathering all of the lineages of Guhyasamaja that were extant and receiving the commentarial transmissions, in other words, the commentarial literature, and then writing his own great commentary, Virimga Seldin, as well as, of course, sadhanas and other. So he's often sort of credited as being the person who fully saved Guhyasamaja from the backbench position on the Parliament of World Yidams. He's a backbencher on the Parliament of World Yidams. And became a main practice. And after him, then all the various Dalai Lamas, Panchen Lamas gave strong attention to it. But especially the seventh Dalai Lama, the first Panchen Lama, sometimes called the fourth, Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen, and then the eighth Dalai Lama, Kachen Yeshe Gyaltsen. And Kachen Yeshe Gyaltsen's commentary is considered to be one of the great elucidations of the practice, cracking the code of Atisha's oral transmission to a certain extent and sneaking it in there, sneakily sneaking it in there, I should say, so as not to overly irritate the keep this stuff secret people. And of course, it is called the secret gathering, so keeping something secret is probably important. But let's not keep too much too secret or it disappears. So last week we went through absorbing the blessings of that lineage coming down to today. And by absorbing that lineage, we get by absorbing those energies or chinlap transforming energies or powers, our mind can become one with the mind of the lineage masters, which means one with enlightenment. And as we saw last week, and as I asked you to practice every day, twice a day for the last, am I waving my finger too much? For the last 7 days. I'll do it more slowly. As I had said, practice twice daily to follow. Why does Kachin Yeshe Gelsen put a strong emphasis on beginning in that way and putting such an emphasis? Because often we hear it said that the Guru Yoga is the very first step to enlightenment, on the path to enlightenment. And it's also the last step when we step from unenlightenment into the vast expanse of enlightenment mind. In other words, a complete alphabet of the stages of enlightenment from A to Z, if we're following the Anglo-Roman alphabet, or alpha, beta, or if we're following Sanskrit or Tibetan. Everything is included. The entire path begins and ends with Guru Yoga. Why is that? Because enlightenment is like a lamp. The light of a butter lamp or the light of a candle passed from one generation to the next generation. Buddha achieved enlightenment, and he touched the flame of his enlightenment to the candle-like minds of many disciples, and they achieved enlightenment. Then they touched the flame of their enlightenment mind to the dead, dark wicks of their disciples. And in that way, it came down over the centuries. Relying upon an authentic and accomplished lineage is the key to success in spiritual practice, and has been from the time of Buddha and presumably from many millenniums before the time of Buddha. That essentially the living tradition of enlightenment is key to becoming a living enlightened person. That statement is made in all texts. Therefore, Milarepa, in all of his own poetry, usually begins with the line, "Homage to my great Guru Marpa Latsawa, who was an embodiment of all the Buddhas of 10 directions." Some such statement. And almost every text written by the great masters of the past speak in that way, connecting to an authentic lineage, receiving instruction authentically, and then integrating that through one's own meditation practice is key to becoming a living Buddha oneself. Therefore, Tsongkhapa, in his spiritual autobiography written in poem form, said, "In the beginning, I listened to many transmissions. In the middle, I contemplated and developed an understanding of the practices. And then I engaged in meditation day and night without break. The beginning, middle, and end. And it begins really with relying upon a qualified spiritual teacher. And that's not a big deal. It's a very easy thing to do. In today's world, we hear stories in ancient times. In a previous life, a Buddha had to do this to meet an accomplished teacher. In today's age, they're almost as like commonplace as kangaroos in Australia or deer in Ireland. There's many hundreds, probably quite a few thousands of qualified masters on the planet today. So it's not a big deal, but it's an important step. It's like the key to your front door. It's not a big deal. It's a tiny little key. But if you forgot it, 2 days drive back and you don't have it, you might have to drive back 2 days to pick it up and bring it back for 2 days drive. Having the key to that door is very important. And the key to that door is connecting to authentic lineage. And I think today all Tibetan schools in Vajrayana have some dozens of qualified masters, and some of the bigger schools even more than dozens. So it's not a difficult connection to make, but it is an indispensable connection. Like the keys to one's car or motorcycle or house are indispensable to entering. And I think that sense of connectedness is as important as the actual connection. Therefore, the main texts on meditation, when they discuss Guru Yoga, say how to, and they use the word Lama Tempa, how to lean on a qualified teacher. So I don't like it when that's translated as devotion, guru devotion. I think devotion is a horrible, yucky word. It's schmaltzy. It's like the chicken fat from a roast chicken that you really should just like spoon off and get rid of, or you can toast some bread in it for feeding to your crows, but otherwise it's schmaltzy. Lama Tempa, leaning on the guru, relying upon, but leaning is a nice word. We lean on our teachers in order to have a happy, healthy relationship with them and gain proper instruction, gain proper guidance. And if we do that, then based on our own leaning, our own attitude, then we get the according benefit. Now, it's often said it doesn't matter if your Lama is in fact a fully accomplished Lama, because nobody knows who is and who isn't. I mean, I do, because I've been told, I've been given a secret list of really enlightened people, but most people, they don't know. But so long as that teacher has received the lineage properly and has engaged in the practice and developed a modicum of realization, then great benefits can be acquired. It can be great fruits can be shaken from that tree, a great harvest of the fruits of enlightened mind realization can be shaken from that tree. This is said by many great masters in the past. We never know. Only one enlightened being can see another enlightened being. Everyone else, we just see the outer side of things and have a kind of a reverberation based on our karmic connection with that teacher. So of the 100 sort of great teachers I met during my years of training in India in the 70s and 80s, I've met probably 100 really great masters, and a dozen or so of them I felt great kind of personal karmic resonance. And that's all I can say. I can't say they were more enlightened than the other 88 with whom I did not share that resonance. So when we absorb like that, we should generate the strong sense. Just like they achieved enlightenment through receiving transmission and engaging in practice. Now I receive in transmission, engage in practice. If those guys and gals can achieve enlightenment that way, I certainly can. So it is important to have that sense of what one person does, another person can do. And in the spiritual world, this is made very clear by Buddha. Regardless of age, gender, social caste, even intellectual acumen, that it's not really IQ that brings enlightenment. It's more, you could say, kind of EQ or something like that, that kind of a spiritual openness or a spiritual flowering, an inner spiritual flowering. And then, of course, we do the meditation of I'm dying, my ordinary body is dying, and going into clear light. Then we come out of that clear light as Guhyasamaja. Instantaneously arises the Vajra wrath, body dark blue in color, three faces, black, white, and red, as we pointed out, being the three energy channels on a secret level. 6 arms holding a Vajra wheel and lotus in the right. Bell, jewel, and sword in the left, representing the 5 Buddha families, and Vajradhara, adorned with the 8 jeweled ornaments, her upper bodies draped with divine shawls, lower bodies clothed in divine silk. So then, I think when we do that, it's good to repeat the 3 hands and 3 hands. And when it says female the same, remember, she's facing us and in sexual embrace with us. So the male is facing the female. So my right is on my right. Her right is on my left. And so to go through that a few times, Vajra, wheel, lotus, bell, jewel, sword. Vajra, wheel, lotus, bell, jewel, sword. And just the other way around, facing this way. Vajra, wheel, lotus, bell, jewel, sword. Vajra, jewel, lotus, bell, jewel, sword. And then just do a rest relaxation, you could say. A shine practice on this sense of identification. And as we go into clear light, coming out of it first as the blue bar, then instant arising as a Nirmanakaya. So everything we do in Guhyasamaja is informed by what Marpa referred to as Sewa Sum, the 3 blendings, clear light, Dharmakaya, clear light of death, Dharmakaya, Bardo Sambhogakaya, rebirth, Nirmanakaya. That body, speech, mind being transformed to mind into Dharmakaya. Speech here meaning energy or prana into Sambhogakaya. And body into Nirmanakaya. So Marpa Lotsua says blending these 3 of the result into our 3 of the path is indispensable to the tantric unfoldment process. So then, when we come out of this, we move into the next step of the oh, I'm changing to gallery view. That's why I'm poking with my finger to find gallery view. So the next step, and this is all we're going to do this week, is the Vajra, picking up the Vajra and bell. What does that mean, picking up Vajra and bell? And once again, we say the practice of Tantra is connected, often this called a samaya. Some people translate samaya as discipline, or some people as sacred oath, or so on. But it really means holding the Vajra and bell correctly, understanding Vajra and bell. So generally, now you notice I've got quite a big Vajra. And as you know, men who buy older men who buy big cars or fast cars is because their willy has gotten very small. And I don't know, someone gave me this Vajra and bell. Maybe they're hinting that it's time for me to buy a sports car. A very large Vajra and a quite large bell. And we hold the Vajra and bell. Now, the reason why we have to do this correctly is if we don't do this correctly, the whole practice goes off key. In other words, unless you start things on the right foot, it doesn't really go well from there on. So what does this mean, picking up Vajra and bell? And here I like to refer to the instructions, the commentary given by Katja Yeshe Gyaltsen, the 8th Dalai Lama's guru. He, by the way, did a 12-year retreat in a cave on Mount Everest and achieved enlightenment and was a little-known person. He was a kind of a remote disciple of the 7th Dalai Lama, in that he lived in a remote place, so he had not a strong connection with him, but very close disciple of the Panchen Lama, who had been the guru of the 7th Dalai Lama. And he did his 12-year retreat and achieved enlightenment. And his two main practices were Guhyasamaja and Chud. Ooh, boom, 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 boom. And so he had Guhyasamaja away for 8 or 10 hours a day during his 12-year retreat, and for an hour or so every day do the Chud, the offering of the body. Luchin, as it's known in the Chud. From Machik Labdun, those were his two main practices. Achieved enlightenment in one lifetime, and his commentary is very brilliant, very brilliant. And one of my gurus, Kyabje Gelek Dorje Chang, who was involved in with the American Embassy in sponsoring publications of Sungbum series or collected work series of great lamas, and the American Embassy through the PL 480 fund sponsored of those. So one day when I visited with Kyabje Gelek Rinpoche, he said, "Glenn, I've got an extra copy of Katja Yeshe Gyaltsen's 25-volume collected works. Would you like to carry one copy to Dharamsala?" And of course, in those days, mostly I went to Delhi on my motorcycle, so it wasn't easy, but there you go, there you go. Tough job, but someone's got to do it. But his brilliant, brilliant collected works. And so in his commentary on the Guhyasamaja practice. He says, if we don't get picking up the Vajra and bell right, then we very easily miss the essential ingredients of the practice. So here, what he's saying is that Vajra and bell, oh, very big, huh? Have you seen a Vajra that big before? I also have a very little one, like the size of my little finger. There's my little finger. But I'll use this one for demonstration purposes. And he said, when we pick up Vajra and bell, the main issue is to generate the mindfulness of the tantric samaya. What it is we're doing. What does that mean, picking up Vajra and bell? And he says that if you don't generate that mindfulness, then it's just like picking up any other piece of metal, like picking up a fork and a spoon or any other kind of thing, that you have to generate full mindfulness of the meaning. And he gives a lot of different words, a lot of different kind of metaphors for it. And one is that every Vajra and bell has a spike down the center. Every Vajra has a spike down the center, and how this represents our central channel, our avaduti, the central channel. And just we saw with the three faces, one represents the central channel, the other two represent the side channels. The white and red faces represent the side channels. When we pick up the Vajra and bell, we're really activating our Vajra body. Now, usually at the center of the bell, there's a round dome. At the center of the Vajra, there's a round dome. And this is given 8 sides to it, even though it's round, like the cardinal and the intermediate directions. So these are representing the 8 channel petals of the heart. So when we pick up the Vajra, he says, hold it through the thumb and ring finger. Now, a lot is made in Tantra about ring finger. And we see in the Amityas Hayagriva that the ring finger is the strongest, sort of, you could say, protective force. If we're in an area with a lot of negative energy, take care of your ring finger. So in Amityas Hayagriva practice, and also in White Chakra Samvara practice, we do that by putting a mantric syllable at the tip of the ring finger. So here we pick up the Vajra and bell with the thumb and ring finger and hold it at the heart, kind of like this. And we should have a feeling that as we hold it, we're kind of opening the channel petals, obstructing the central channel. That in the lower aperture, we're activating energies entering from the side channels, our white face and red face channels. Side energies flow from the side channels into the central channel. And he says we should now connect it to the, what is it called, Shi Lam Trebu, the basis, the path, and the result. And the basis here means we have the making of the Vajra body within ourselves. And as those of you who've done 6 yogas, Naropa or Niguma, with me or with Vajra Mandala and with Jonas and Gosho will remember that the first stage of completion, the first steps in completion stage is called building the Vajra body. Well, here, what we do in generation stage yoga is supposed to lay the seeds for success in completion stage yogas. And so Nagarjuna, in his commentary to Guhyasamaja, says that with however much we make real the generation stage practice, to that extent do we ripen the seeds for success in completion stage yogas. So here, to use an Alabama or Georgia expression, from the get-go, we pick up the Vajra and we activate our central channel. You could say we open the portal at the lower aperture of the central channel and allow the energies to flow in. And flowing in, the heat to rise a little bit, and in the heart, the 8 channel petals at the heart to expand, and similarly at the throat and at the crown. Now the she is, we have Buddha nature as our mind. We have a bliss nature as part of our we have a bliss nature as part of that subtle mind, the radiance and the bliss. And we could say the active side. So we've got the seeds of the 3 kayas of enlightenment with us at all the time. That's the basis. Without the seed, you won't get the plant. And without the plant, you don't get the fruit. So here we have that seed within us. And all we have to do is activate it. For instance, in Tibet, they would keep grains for as much as 500 years. Individual houses would keep a pot of grain from 500 years ago, and 450 years ago, and 400 years ago. And then if they keep it dry, it will remain potent. And so at any time when they have any crop disaster, they could pull out a barrel of seeds from 100 years ago or 200 years ago that won't be susceptible to whatever little problem has hit the crop in recent time. So we've got this ancient seed. In terms of the path, Shi Lam, then we have the makings of the Vajra body. We've got the 3 energy channels. We've got the 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, however many chakras we want. We have that there for the path. All we need to do is do the practice. And as for Trebu, Tantra is called connecting with the result. We're seeing ourselves as Guhyasamaja, fully enlightened Buddha, Vajra Akshobhya, or Manjushri Vajra. So we're seeing ourselves connecting with that enlightenment side. So you could say we're bringing Shi Lam Trebu together as one practice. Now, on the top of the Vajra are 4 spikes on top. This is a wrathful Yamataka Vajra I have, so it's a little different. If the peaceful ones, the spikes at the top go in and curl back and don't leave any space. But this is the wrathful form. And so these 4, and below is another 4. And these represent the invocation of the 4 blisses. In other words, we want to experience. We want to bring bliss into the path. The path of Tantra is often called Dayton Yermegi Yeshe, the holding a mind of bliss that is is characterized by a sense of emptiness or infinity. Or put another way, a mind awareness of the infinity of being characterized by bliss. We could put it the other way around. Deton yerme yeshe. These two inseparable. So how do we do that? We hold the breast like this. And the four upper, these represent invoking the four blisses when we bring the drop down from the crown chakra to throat, throat to heart, heart to navel, navel to tip of the jewel. In males, the tip of the penis, and ladies, either the G-spot or the clitoris. And so as we hold this like this, just to have a very strong sense of our three channels and chakras. And the fire blazes up and relaxes the channel chakras. And the white drop and the crown chakra comes down to the throat, giving rise to gawa, to the heart, gachok, to the navel, kepragawa, to the secret chakra, minchikega. So joy, supreme joy, wonderful joy, and joy born together with orgasmic radiance. And then we turn it around. The lower four spikes represent the upward moving four blisses. So we hold it in the orgasmic. We hold the mind in the orgasmic secret chakra or jewel chakra for a few moments. And then reverse it and bring it up. Joy, great joy, wonderful joy. Joy born together with orgasmic radiance. In other words, when we pick up the Vajra, we're really connecting to our inner Vajra body. We're planting the seeds for later in completion stage, actualizing those four blisses effortlessly, you could say, or spontaneously, just by doing a vase breath and a little bit of pushing and pulling with the mind. Push, pull, push, pull. Ah, great bliss. Push, pull, push, pull. Oh, more great bliss. And, sometimes in initiation, a Lama will give out a Vajra to a Vajra assistant. The Vajra assistant will walk around the room and touch everyone on the crown, oops, forehead, throat, heart, navel. So that's often to represent the invocation of these four blisses. So, and then of course this goes together with a mantra. The Vajra is method, the bell is wisdom, both of the nature of the ultimate mind, the ultimate bodhicitta. So ultimate bodhicitta here really means the bliss characterized by emptiness. Yeah, and so Kachin Yeshi Gelson then just say the upper tip represents the upper end of the crown aperture of the central channel, and the lower tip, the lower end of the central channel. So when we first pick it up, we sort of have the sense of it, the lower as being the navel, then the heart, the throat, and the center of the brain. When we put the descending, we move it down all the way to the jewel chakra. It becomes upper and lower, including those 5 chakras. And in certain practices, it can go up to the top of the brain, touching just below the skull at the top. And then the bell, we pick up the bell. And again, the bell this is a wrathful Vajra at the top of this one. And Om Sarvatara Siddhi Vajrasamaya Tishtam Ishtam Tarami Vajrasafa he hung peso ha. And we should say that with soul. Like, I feel good. Dun, 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 dun. Like I know I should. It should be said with strong enthusiasm. And the meaning, Om Sarvata Tagata Om, all the Buddhas. Om means my own body, speech, and mind. The three Vajras. And speech here means the pranas coursing in your body, supporting the mind, which is like going. So speech doesn't mean hello, how are you, or 7 years ago. Was it 7 or 20? I can't remember. It's not a speech in that way. It's really referring to the power of wind or prana. And Ishtvan Dharami. Samya Tishtam Ishtvan Dharami means to hold firmly, to hold firmly. So this bliss and void mind symbolized by the Vajra should be held firmly. Vajrasattva, he, peso. And the five he's representing the five wisdoms of the five Buddha families and the three hongs, doing that with one's mind. One's mind should be in Dharmakaya, one's pranas, one's speech in Sambhogakaya, and one's body and one's exchange with the physical world in Nirmanakaya. Marpa's three blendings. Please, please practice Marpa's three blendings. Now, when I was, can't remember where it was, someone gave me a not very interesting cup of coffee, and they put in some sugar and didn't stir it. So if you have very good coffee, no need for any sugar. But if it's not very good coffee, a little sugar helps. So the first 99 sips were not that good, and the last sip was okay. The blending is important to have every sip delicious. And so, yeah, so then when you do that, now the bell you're holding similarly between the thumb and the ring finger of the left hand, you'll hold it in the lap as you see in paintings of Vajrasattva. And then after you've stabilized your Vajra, the Vajra means a upaya side. And the way Kachin Yeshe Gelsen puts it is everything from here until enlightenment. From the first practice of Guru Yoga, which we have just completed, and which transformed us into a simple form of Ikshobhya Vajra or Guhyasamaja, until the final practice of Guru Yoga, when our mind becomes one with the Dharmakaya of all Buddhas, the Dharmakaya of all enlightened masters, the Dharmakaya of all the lineage master. In other words, from beginning of practice until full enlightenment. That we hold this Vajra Samaya, connect with three Vajras as basis, three Vajras as practice, three Vajras as result. Shi Lam Trebu. Very important foundation for making the sadhana meaningful. So Kachin Yeshe Gelsen goes on to say that if you can establish that samaya, that sense of being. Samya here, let's call it a sense of being. Sense of your presence, your body, mind, body, emotion, mind, your three doors. Your physical being, your wind being, prana being, and your radiant mind being. If you can establish their Vajra nature from the beginning of sadhana, then the rest of the sadhana becomes meaningful. If you cannot establish it in the beginning of sadhana, then of course it's still some merit from just chanting, I see this deity here and that deity there, and I'm reciting this mantra and that mantra. But to make it ripen, path, basis becoming path becoming full enlightenment, important. Then we pick up the bell and we bring it to the heart and we ring. We say, Om Vajrakanta Om. And again, I have a very big bell. I also have a very little bell somewhere, but I'm shy to show that off in public. And there's the mantra, Om Vajradhana Randantina Prananida Sambrandida Sarvabhadra Trishtaya Prachulani Prajnaparamita Nariya Sabaya Vaja Sabahridya Santoshani Hum 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 Ho 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 Soha. And that mantra is very beautiful. When we do that, we ring the bell. And we're supposed to ring in 8 directions. So you go once back and front, and once sideways, once the intermediate direction, and once the other. So you ring in all 8 directions. And of course, sound also goes up and down. And you're supposed to ring it a little bit loudly. How do we know that? The mantra tells us. The mantra, Om Vajra Dharma. So Vajra Dharma, Vajra reality could be, or it could be Vajra spiritual practice. Vajra practice could be. Ranita means ring. Praranita. Ring loudly. And Sampraranita. Ring completely loud. And what happens if we ring our bell loud, more loud, and fully loud? Well, then, Sarva Buddha Keshtraya Prachalani. Then we ring it so loud that the sound goes to all Buddha fields of the 10 directions and causes a little earthquake in those fields. We all know that Buddhas tend to be a little bit on the lazy side. I even know some Buddhists who are lazy, let alone Buddhas, so a little on the lazy side. So we have to wake them up. So we ring the bell. Ring the bell. Cause a little earthquake in every Buddha field in all 10 directions. And tell those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in all those Buddha fields, hey, you guys, get off your lazy bottoms. Get something done in this world. Actually, that's a casual translation of the mantra. Casual, maybe too casual. Some might argue too casual. Prajnaparitindara svabha. And this sound, which has the very essence of the sound of Prajnaparamita, when I ring my bell, it has the very essence of the meaning of Prajnaparamita. So you Buddhists and Bodhisattvas, when I ring this is the sound of the perfect wisdom of the 6 paramita, Prajnaparamita. And I ring it loud, more loud, really loud. And what happens? Vajra Sabhava, Vajra, Sattva, Hridya, Sando, Shani. This Vajra Sattva, Vajra Sattva here really means Vajradhara, I think, really meaning the primordial force of enlightenment. The Vajra beings, the enlightened beings, all become fully delighted, all become completely pleased. Now, the meaning of puja in Sanskrit, Tibetans translate as chupa, and they translate as offering, but puja in Sanskrit means to please. And who does it please? Well, if you give someone a gift, they say thanks. Just today, someone sent me a cyber chocolate. And I thought, well, that's kind of nice. It's only a cyber chocolate. It's less calories, but still, it's chocolate. And it's a good feeling. And if, my experience, when I've given little gifts to people here and there, they usually smile and look a little bit happy. So in that same way, here, we send out this sound of Prajna Paramita to the 10 directions, and we call all of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in all the Buddha fields of all directions and all world systems. Wake up and get moving. Time to deliver. Hong, 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 ho, 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 swaha. And how to deliver? Bring bliss and wisdom, the wisdom of non-duality. Bring those into all manifest those fully in the minds of all living beings, fully in the prana fields of all living beings, or the speech, the prana fields of all living beings, and fully into the physical world, the bodies and worlds, the physical worlds of all living beings. Ho, 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 svaha. Now, some people put that ho, 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 Gotcha Yeshigelson puts the ho, 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 meaning beings of high quality, beings of medium quality, and beings of low quality. So, sometimes we hear people talk about others as negative. I was recently in Atlanta, and one of my professor friends held a dinner in my honor, you could say. And I went to it, and someone was talking about the evil of our times and how many evil beings are around. And this politician, I won't give you a hint of who it is. I think he's got orange hair, and some other person in politics, and some other person here and there. Actually, in Buddhism, we don't refer to any of those as evil beings. We say beings of highest spiritual capacity, beings of medium spiritual capacity, and beings of lowest spiritual capacity, or just low. In Tibetan is chung trin che, like that. It's very big, little, small. So even the most spiritually worst off person on the planet is a being of is at least a being of spiritual potential, just a little bit kind of constricted spiritual potential. And then these guys looked at me like, I should make a comment on that, and being Irish and not shy to do so, I said, well, I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life who's more evil than myself, or more evil than any of you in this room. That everyone's doing what they think is best, and if what is best is in fact not best, it's not due to the force of evil, it's due to the force of negative thinking, in other words, wrong ideas, and doing the best, but what they think is best might be not so good. Like, for instance, take Teddy Roosevelt. Most people like him as a president. I thought he was kind of okay. I liked his mustache. And but he took it upon himself to try to have all the trees in Virginia cut down. So there's lots of photos of him out in the forest standing over these 500-year-old trees, and just like he's just done such a great deed for the benefit of humans. I guess it was some way it was good. In another way, we could say it was evil. It was something done with good intention that may not have had a good result. We can't say. maybe it did have a good result. I've been through Virginia. Doesn't look that bad. He didn't like completely destroy it. Just that there's no old trees there anymore. And we see that all over the world with every living being, with everything that we think is evil, is someone doing what they thought was right, but their thought may not have been right. So therefore, what they did, others could interpret as evil. In Buddhism, we just say, by a person of lower spiritual capacity. I think that's much more kind. It's a little condescending, because usually when we say lower spiritual capacity, we tend to think of lower than us. And that might be a problem, because other people might be looking at us and say, oh, that Glenn is a person of lower spiritual capacity. Well, maybe he's intermediate. Whereas myself, I think of myself as great spiritual capacity. And most people do. So anyway, the ho, 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 I thought both with that and with the Vajra mantra represent bringing benefit to all living beings, those of high spiritual capacity, and those of medium spiritual capacity, and those of lowest spiritual capacity. And well, I think, if we look at a statement from Christ, which, as I often say, stole a lot of his intelligent stuff from Buddhism. We'll leave him, where he got the dumb stuff, I don't know, but the intelligent stuff he got from Buddhism. And the story of the prodigal son, a couple of the kids are really good, and one's like really not that good, and he runs away and throws away all his wealth. And when he comes back, the father treats him even better than he seems to be treating the other two, which upsets the other two. One or two, I don't remember that story so well. It's like 60 years since, or 55 years since I heard it. But anyway, when, what is it? Then Christ tells a story of like a shepherd. If one sheep goes astray, the shepherd will leave the 99 to go and bring that one back. I think that's a kind of a Buddhist idea of like everyone is equally valuable, regardless of where they are at the moment. And, I know people who think their parents are very evil, or think their brothers and sisters are very evil, or think, other particular countries are evil and so forth. In reality, people just do the best they can do based on what they think and how they think and feel. And unfortunately, thinking and feeling are both namtok. They're both conceptual mind states that often miss the big context, miss the bigger context. So, and then Kachin Yeshe Gelsen says, after you do that, bring the two hands together at the heart. And when you bring them together at the heart to generate a very strong sense of both the conventional side of being and ultimate side of being brought into harmony. Both male aggression and female aggression brought into male aggression and female passion brought into synchronicity. And he quotes the first Panchen Lama, who says, now, as Guhyasamaja, the bell, as male Guhyasamaja, in union with consort, the Vajra hair is representing male Guhyasamaja's penis, and the bell is representing the consort's vagina. And so both of those in union, this is like bringing male and female sexual organs into harmony and into full blissful union. And when you do that, once again, you should, from the sense of the union, have the put your attention at the place of the union of male and female. And that gives rise to great inner fire. And the fire melts and goes up and relaxes navel chakra, heart chakra, throat chakra, crown chakra, and brings the 4 descending blisses, resulting in the orgasmic 4th bliss, and then bring back up the 4 ascending blisses. And then bring both of the ascending and descending, bring both sun and moon into union at the heart. Now, he does also point out with the bell and Vajra, you have at various places, you've got a lotus, and on top of that a sun disk, and on top of that a moon disk. And some Vajras made with detail will detect that, will notice that. And he says this is to represent how each of the chakras, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, that each of these chakras at the center is in a generic way. I use the word generic here because when we do it in specific application, it doesn't happen like that. Has the lotus, on top of the lotus, the sun disk, and on top of the lotus, the moon disk. So this is kind of a generic way. And the lotus has 8 petals. And he says, why 8 petals? Because at the heart, 4 become 8. And these 8 represent the 8 great bodhisattvas who are a key element in the Guhyasamaja Tantra, as we'll see later on, in their positions around the 4 of the 5 Buddha. Let's say Dhyani Buddhas. Let's call them Dhyani Buddhas for want of a better word. The family lords. And similarly at the throat, 4 become 8, become 16, and at the crown, 4 become 8, become 16, become 32, and at the navel, 4 become 8, become 32, become 64, like that. So it says this is to represent that in all of these practices, the qualities of the 8 bodhisattva sons, such as Maitreya, Manjusri, Avalokiteshvara, and so forth, are the 8 bodhisattva heroes, that these 8 enlightenment qualities should be present in our consciousness at all times. The sun and moon, of course, that the sun, the heat of the female passion, and the moon, the bliss of the cooling moon, that these should all be in balance and harmony throughout all. So in this way, I think for the next week, if people wouldn't mind restraining themselves from rushing through the sadhana to later parts, we're just going to do, say, what we did for the last week as the main practice. Now do it for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and then for 10 or 15 minutes, do this Vajra bell connection. By connecting to the Vajra and bell, you connect to the Samaya, the quintessential practice. What is our tantric Samaya? What is that Samaya talking about when we practice Tantra? It's to connect with our own enlightenment nature as a futuristic experience brought into the present moment. It's very much like America, where you buy everything on credit cards. And basically, to have a sense of one's already enlightened nature, or one's synchronicity with enlightenment nature. And when I give Ngakpa ordination to people, often we talk about the 5 Buddha families and those kind of basic 19 things to keep in mind, practices to keep in mind to satisfy. Those are just kind of hints, you could say, but the real essence is to connect to your enlightenment nature. Always have a sense of you are an enlightened hero, heroine, a kind of a Superman, Supergirl. And that's the Samya. The Samya is to recognize and develop supreme comfort with the sense of yourself as a super being. One of the meanings of bodhisattva, of course, is super being, enlightenment, hero, heroine. But as Pao, as hero, heroine, then as we ring the bell to awaken the Buddhas of the 10 directions, that they should shower forth great waves to bring about goodness throughout all world systems. We can't do everything just by ourselves. I mean, I would like to solve all the world's problems, but I'm too lazy. But I'm not too lazy to ring my bell and tell the millions and billions of Buddhists and Bodhisattvas to get off their butts and get to work. And when we do that, they shower down great. They are very pleased, like, well, thank you for reminding us. We got caught up in watching a Korean TV serial or something like that, or Days of Our Lives, or General Hospital. Yeah, we better hop out and get something done. So there's that kind of samya there, that we should always see ourselves as hero, heroine, holding Vajra and bell, mind of emptiness with supported by great bliss, or blissful mind with full awareness of the infinity or non-duality of being. And we do that by holding the Vajra and bell, our male-femaleness, perfectly in harmony and balance. So I think we'll stop there for today, and not allowed to do any more after what we did today, just to concentrate on the big bell and the big Vajra. It's almost the size of my head. Yawadi Nurda somewhere to Bungatrip Yarne draw a chicken malupa, Salagu Parcho, Janjo Sancho Rimpoche, Makipana, Kinuchi Kipanyamba Mepayo, Kone Kondu Power Show.
Thank you so very much, Lama Glenn. Sa, Shi, Pögi, Jokshik, Metok, Tram, Rura, Blingshin, Yede, Genpadi, Sange, Shingdu, Make the Powai, Droko Namda, Kshingla, Chuparasho, Om Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamni Yetaya.
So yeah, we promise to resist going forward and focus on the essentials.
Also, I wanted to say that there have been some suggestions that we should, toward the end, later on in this start, look at those of you who would like to do a lay rung from it. And I think once we pass the halfway point, maybe 8 or 10 weeks, oh no, what would that be, 6 or 7 weeks into the thing, maybe we can look at starting doing a mantra count. But unless we can get the basis there, mantra counting is nice, it's fun, and it gives us some sense of benefit, and it has a lot of merit. But let's try and establish the foundations in this kind of step-by-step way, if you don't mind, before starting the lay rung. Thank you very much.
Sounds very wonderful.
And of course, those of you who have already done all of this many times, then you're welcome to do a lay rung anytime you wish.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lamala. And of course, thank you so much